Alright. In this video I'm going to show you how to wire up a three-way switch. Now what a three-way switch does, it allows you to control some light source from two different locations. The difference between a regular single pole switch, which is what this is this just controls a switch from one location, and it just has two brass terminals on it and a ground. Also, if you notice, it says on and off on a single pole switch. However, if you're looking at a three-way switch, you'll notice there's a ground, there's a black screw terminal, which is called a common screw. Then there's also two terminals up top that are brass, which are called travelers. And if you look at the switch, you'll see that there is no on or off, because depending upon which switch you use, it could be on or off from either way, so that's why it's not labeled. Okay. Here I have a cable that would be coming into the bottom of my three-way switch, which would be power coming in. This is a 14-2 cable, which is a ground, a neutral, and a hot. After it goes through the switch, it'll come to a 14-3 cable, which has a ground, a neutral, and two hots. Moving along, it comes to another switch.
Jesus.
It's the same cable, 14-3, comes to another three-way switch. Because the whole purpose of a three-way switch is to control the light from two different sources, two different locations. Then after that, it comes back to a 14-2 cable, which goes to your light you're controlling. Okay. But 14-2 power in, 14-3 between the switches, and then back to 14-2 to control the light. Alright, I'm going to wire my three-way switch. We start off with a little pigtail. I like to make a little loop in my pigtail. Just a little loop like so. And then I make sure this loop goes around the ground in a clockwise manner, like so. And I give this a little crimp. I'm going to tighten my ground down. Okay, I'm going to set this by this box. Well, there's no box here, but this would represent where a box is at. I'm leaving the box out to show you the connections more clearly. I'm going to go ahead and do this ground as well with a little pigtail. Same thing on my grounds, is make a little loop here, like so. A little loop, clockwise manner. A little crimp. Tighten it down. Okay. I'm going to set this one right here. Okay. Now, obviously this would be power in coming into this box, but like I said, no box because there's no. I'm leaving the box out to make it a little bit clearer. Okay, what I'm going to do with my 14-2 power in, I'm going to make a little loop on my power, like so. I'm going to hook the power coming into the common in a clockwise manner, which would be my loops up. I'm going to give a little crimp. Now when you're crimping wire, you want to make sure the insulation is stripped back far enough so that when you tighten this terminal down, it doesn't crimp your insulation. Okay?
Turn it more. Yeah, you got to face the camera.
Okay. Now this is power coming into the bottom of my switch. Now these top terminals are the travelers. Now to hook up the travelers, you're going to need a 14-3 cable. I'm going to make two loops in my little 14.3. Just little loops real quick. Okay. Now I'm going to hook in a clockwise manner. Take this traveler, hook it like that. Give it a little smush, little crimp.
Turn it more.
Okay. I got my common hooked up. I got my traveler. Hook up the other traveler. And since it's on this side of the terminal, I need to wrap it in a clockwise manner, so I need to put my loops down. I'm going to take this here and stick it on. Give it a little crimp. Just a little bit. Make sure my insulation's not under the terminal. Okay. Now, if you notice on this switch, I didn't hook up any neutrals to it. This is all dealing with hots and a ground. Okay. So now that this switch would be done, I'm going to go ahead and hook my grounds up. I'm going to use my lineman pliers to do this. And what I do is I put
Can you stop for a second? Can you push these wires down? These three? Yeah, thank you. Okay.
Okay, I'm going to make my ground connection. And I like to do that with lineman pliers. Just give it a bunch of twists. Make sure you get some good wraps. Good connections. It's all about good connections. So, as you can see, I got a good wrap there, and I like to trim it back a little bit. Make it nice and neat. Good wrapping. Then I take, there's three 14 gauge conductors on here. I mean, 3 14 gauge cables on here. So I can go up. These yellow leads can hold up to 3. It's perfect. Just twist that on. Okay. Got that nice and tight. Now I'm going to hook up my neutrals. Neutrals, when you're dealing with switches, your neutrals don't get switched. Only the hot leads get switched. Okay. So now, once again, I like to use my lineman pliers to make a connection. Good tight connections. Don't just depend on the wire nut. Actually make good wraps. And I like to get a couple wraps on the wire just for good, nice tight connections. You see that's a good connection. Trim it back a little bit. And once again, this has two conductor. And there's two 14 gauge wires. This is rated for 1 up to 3 14 gauge, so this will be good. Okay. Okay. Now, normally there'd be a box here. You cram all this stuff in there nice and neat. Now, here, once again, this is my travelers, 14.3 gauge, I mean a 14.3 cable coming in. I'm going to start off with my travelers. Now, when you're hooking up your travelers, it doesn't really matter if you can hook them in either way. so you'll be good. I'm going to make some loops right here. Okay. Now I'm going to be hooking this red one. I like to keep them the same. So just looking at this one, I notice my red lead is on the same side as my common. It doesn't matter, but I'm going to go ahead and keep it the same way. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and slide my traveler wire on. Like I said, I like to keep it the same. If the red one's on the same side as the black here, I like to do it the same, but it doesn't matter. You can switch the two. So I'll put my red here. Give it a little crimp. Okay. Now I'm going to tighten down this traveler. Okay. I'm going to tighten, notice that one in a clockwise manner. To do this side, it's got to go in a clockwise manner, which will be down. So I'm going to do this side. And once again, you notice the insulation's not tucked underneath the wire. That's important. You don't want to give it a little smush. Okay. Okay. Now as you can see, I got my travelers hooked up. I'm going to go ahead and hook up this side of my switch. The common's going to go to the bottom terminal. Let me show you. Okay. So I'm going to trim this back a little because I made it a little long. So, make a loop. Once again, clockwise manner. Give it a little smush. Okay. Now my hots, switch hots are hooked up. I'm going to hook up my neutrals. Use my lining pliers. Get a good twist on the connections. Good twist. That's what it's all about. I like to get a couple twists on the wire and cut this back. Okay. Okay. I'm going to hook up my grounds. Good connections, good twist. Okay, have to get a couple good twists on there. Trim it back some. Okay. 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 Now once again, there would be a box here. You cram all this nice and neat. Power would come into this switch box. go to this switch, and then power would leave this switch and go to the ceiling box that would be up in the overhead. That's where you'd wire your light connections, which I'm going to do now. Okay, so go ahead and wire the hots first. It's just a matter in the ceiling, 14 2 cable would run up from the switch to the ceiling, and I just make the hot connections with my lining pliers, of course. Like I said, I like to get a couple turns on the wire when I'm doing this, just because I think it makes it a little better, a little better, a little tougher, and it's all about good, strong connections. See, that's a couple wraps on the wire itself. It's just the way I like to do it. I'll trim this back some. Now my hot leads are connected. And I'm going to make my neutral connections. To get a couple turns on the wire. Got a couple turns, it's nice and tight. Got a couple turns on the wire, nice and tight for neutrals. I'll give it cut it back a little bit. And make got my, there's two cables here, so this will work. Okay. Now I just got 2 cables to hook up my grounds. I'm going to lace these together. And my lining pliers. Okay, last connection. Now normally in your ceiling box, you tuck all these wires in your ceiling box, get your light nice and neat. But I'm going to leave this exposed out. And I'm going to do a quick check to make sure nothing's. And I'm going to show you that it actually works. Okay, as you can see, I can turn the light on here, turn it off here. I can walk down the hall, turn it off. On, off. See how that? Walk down the hall, turn it off. Okay, let me show you now. I mentioned that the travelers didn't matter. I told you you could switch these around from here to here, and I'm going to show you that real quick. Then I'll turn it back on. Just to show you that it doesn't matter if you switch your travelers, it'll still work. Okay, last time I had my red hooked up. Now I'm going to hook the black up on this side. Just to show you that when you switch your travelers, it doesn't matter. Last time I had my red wire hooked here. Now I'm going to hook it on this side. Just to show you that if you switch your travelers when you're doing this, it's not a big deal when you wire it up this way. Okay, I switched my travelers around, so you know, just to show you that it still will work. Okay, with my traveler switch, let me show you. I'm walking down the hall. I can turn this switch and make the light go out. Walk down the hall, turn it back on. Okay. See how that works?
Sit down.
Now this is just one example. I'm going to show you guys some other examples in another video. This represents a way that, you know, power comes in right to the switch box, goes to another switch, and then goes into the ceiling. Some of the other videos I'll show you would be like, well, what if power goes in here first, or what if power comes in here? There's different ways to wire. This is just one way I showed you.